Let's give it till 9:05 for anyone else that's gonna be joining, and then we'll get started.
All right, sounds good. Does anyone have any questions? All right.
I just wanted to say we got some very good submissions of homework. Lots of submissions, lots of great work. Please review the responses that were left. And yeah, a lot of good turnout for the homework. That being said, we are still missing many homeworks that were supposed to be submitted. Some members are here now, some members are not, but just wanted to inform you guys homework is due, homework is given for a reason, and we we take great pride in doing proper work, right? And it's not just making you do a work and you already know the material. It's about seeing if you're able to do a specific task as well. So, and a lot of things can be uh, understood by seeing a document that you present, and we analyze that document. We try to see where you need improvement or what your current status of knowledge on the subject is. So I just wanted to request everybody, please work on your homework and please submit it on time and within the allotted time, meaning after you submit, we review and we give our suggestions. And after that suggestion is given, then you have a chance to update that, make the changes if needed, or make you know learn from that update and resubmit. And
Bhaiya,
that's
can you hear me?
yes.
This is Meher. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Uh, there's another user called Zoom user. If you can please change your name to your proper name, would be helpful. And Ashfaq, I'll thank you for your time. I'll let you continue.
All right. We still have 1 minute till 9:05. So if in case anyone else is joining, let's just wait till then. But I did check Google Classroom, and I see that there are a lot of members that still haven't joined. They haven't accepted their invite. So whoever hasn't joined yet, please guys join Google Classroom. Check your emails and make sure you have access. That's where you're going to be submitting your homework. That's where you're going to have access to all of your documentations. All of the documentation that we provide are also in Google Classroom. So make sure you accept your invite that was sent later on. All right, let's get started. It's 9:05. So welcome everyone today. Today we'll be having our SDLC class, continuation of SDLC. Last class, I believe SDLC was covered for you guys with the different phases. So let me just share my screen. For everyone that's here today, you guys should have access to Google Classroom. So the main place that you'd be finding your documents are right here under documents, and then once you open up your documentation, you should be able to see it here. I believe you guys finished part C, SDLC. Where did you finish during the last class? Did you guys go over the phases?
Brother, I didn't take before class.
Sorry?
This is my first class, sir. I didn't take before one.
Ashfaq, let's review SDLC again.
All right, let's
So we
review.
get a better understanding. Thank you.
So let's start from part 3, the beginning, SDLC. What is SDLC? SDLC stands for Software Development Lifecycle. All right, this is the full phrase, Software Development Lifecycle. And this is just an acronym, SDLC, Software Development Lifecycle. It is the entire process of formal and logical steps taken to develop a software product. Meaning, when a software product has to be created, there is a process that is followed, and that process is called Software Development Lifecycle, SDLC. All right. Then we have another definition right here. Software development lifecycle is the overall process by which the entire software is developed. All right. The process that is followed for an entire software to be developed is called SDLC, or Software Development Lifecycle. Then we have another one right here. Software Development Lifecycle, SDLC, is a process used by the software industry to design, develop, and test high quality softwares. The SDLC aim is to produce high quality software that meets or exceeds customer expectation, reaches completion within times and cost estimates. All right, that is what SDLC is. The main thing to understand is everything that needs to be created, everything that is done for business, there's a process that has to be followed. So even creating a software, there is a process. There's designing, there's documentation, there's developing, there's testing, and then there's production. There's different types, there's different things that have to be followed. All right. And following that process from A to Z is called SDLC within the tech industry. Does anyone have questions about SDLC or its definition?
So I can discuss about 3 number points. Software development lifecycle is a process used by the software industry to design, develop, and test high quality software. The SDLC aims to produce high quality software that meets to exceed customer expectations. So that means exceeds customer expectation.
Customer expectation means that whatever the customer wants, that's what they're getting. So that's what
Okay.
customer expectation is. And that is what the SDLC process is, to make sure that we are giving them a product within time, within budget, and within their expectations, or exceeding their expectations. Now, there are different phases of SDLC. Let's go over the phases of SDLC. First, we have the,
Some people are requesting, can you please zoom in a little bit?
sure.
Thank you.
Is this better for you guys?
Yes, okay, sir. It's okay.
All right. Now, what are the different phases of SDLC? We have, starting off with the user requirement phase, then we have the planning phase, then we have the design phase, development phase, system testing phase, UAT phase, and then we have the deployment or production phase. All right. These are the phases that are normally within the SDLC. So when what processes are we following? We're following the SDLC process. And within the SDLC process, we have 7 different phases. The user requirement phase, which what do we do in the user requirement phase? The user or client shall come to the IT company with URS. A URS, user requirement specification. What is this? This is a document that the client, right, whoever wants a software, whoever is asking to be who needs a software and asking the tech industry to create a software for them, they're the ones who give us the URS, also known as the user requirement specification. It is a document, and
these ones are all about asking for customer, right?
this is from
URS?
this is from the customer.
Yeah, one request I would have, brother Merab, since this is your first class, you're on the 3rd part of the document. There are also videos prior to this class that we had. You should watch that video. It's more thorough. We're just going and we're just giving an overview of what was covered. watch that video and ask me questions directly. Later on, I'll answer all your questions. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ashfaq.
Yes, and another thing, brother, there is part 1 and part 2 that you also have to cover. So make sure you get those covered as well. All right. So this document itself, the URS, user requirement specification, it's handed to you by the client. You, as in you are the IT company, you are part of the IT company, and this document is given to the IT company by the client or by whoever is asking for a software. URS. This is a very important phrase, a very important name. Make sure you guys keep this in mind.
Okay, sir.
All right. What else happens in the user requirement phase? We have a meeting that happens between the IT company and the client, and then requirements get finalized. So all 3 of these are happening within the user requirement phase. During the meeting, this is when they hand the URS off, and when and it says here that we have the requirements finalized. All of the requirements are within the URS, the user requirement specification, the document that they're handing. This is where all of our requirements are added and finalized. All right. So that is the first phase of SDLC. Now let's move on to the second phase, the planning phase. What happens within the planning phase? Within the planning phase, we have the BA, business analyst, who creates the proper software requirement documents. All right. So what does that mean? That means that they take this URS that is provided by your client, and then they convert that into something called an SRS, System Requirement Specification, or also known as BRD, Business Requirement Document. These two are the same things, they just have different names. SRS or BRD, they are the same thing, just
Both
different
are
names.
same, sir.
That's right, brother. So System Requirement Specification or Business Requirement Document. What happens within the planning phase, I'll just repeat myself one more time. The business analyst, this is someone that's using the role as a business, someone that is a business analyst within the IT company. That person converts the URS, right? The URS that was given to us during the user requirement phase. They take that and then they convert it to an SRS, all right, the System Requirement Specification. And all of these documents that are provided, given, or created, they're added to or saved to the CM library, Configuration Management Library. All right. A CM library is just basically a big, huge library. It's a virtual library where we add all of our documents. So any type of documents that are given to us, any type of documents that we create, any type of documents that we edit, those documents are added into the CM library. All right. And this doesn't have to be, the CM library is not specifically for a phase. A CM library is for anything that is given to us in any phase. So even when the URS is given to us, this URS is also added to the CM library as well. All right. Now, after the planning phase, we also have the design phase. And in the design phase, what happens is the designer starts creating the software design based on the SRS. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about the URS and SRS and what are the difference. A URS is a document that has plain basic English. All right. It's just going to let you know that the client wants. So the client is just going to say, I want to have this and that in an application. It's in plain, simple English. And then when it's being converted by the BA into an SRS, this is given in a more technical language within the company. So for the workers within the IT company to understand, they just change it to into technical terms. And that is something that you guys will be seeing later on when we start giving out more documents for requirements and whatnot. You'll see how it's changed from saying that I want this, I want that, to technical terms. All right. So that's what the designer is doing. The designer is looking at the SRS. They don't have to look at the URS. They just directly look at the SRS, which is the technical document. and then they start creating their designs and their mock-ups. All right. Another thing is it just creates the application mainframe design. It is basically a blueprint. All right. Just like how you would build, you would have a building being built, or you would have a house being built. Whatever is being built, you always have a blueprint out first, right? Everyone has a mock-up of how they want their house, how they want their rooms, how big should the room be, how many bathrooms should be within a house. They have a full mock-up, they have a blueprint of this is where everything should be. Just like that, when a software is being created, we also have designs and mockups created before it is actually developed. So we also have our blueprints from our side. And that happens within the design phase. All right. So within the design phase, the designers start creating the software design and mockups based on the SRS. Everything that is being worked on is always going to be based on the SRS. It is the application mainframe design. Now let's move on to the development phase. Within the development phase, what happens? The developer starts creating the source code. The source code is when they start their build, when they start creating what is being asked of. All right. They look at the SRS, they look at the designs, they see what does the client need, what needs to be created, and then they go ahead and start their coding. After finishing their coding, they do two types of testing from their side. All right. It is called a unit test and an integration test. These are two different types of tests. All right. So even the developers, they do some types of testing. And they are called the unit test and integration test. And then once the code is compiled, all of the code being put together is called a build. And that is what happens during the development phase. For these, the starting from the user requirement phase, the planning phase, design phase, and development phase, as long as you have all of these details and all of these simple codes such as developer, source code, unit test, integration test, builds, if you mention these, that should be enough, because these are not our areas of expertise when we have to give an explanation. Our area of expertise is going to be in the next step, the testing phase, right? And this is something you have to know from A to Z. You have to know every single detail, and you have to make sure that you can explain this without stuttering or being nervous. All right. So right now, let's go into the testing phase. After our design is complete, after that, our requirements have been developed, right? Or whatever the software has been developed, then we go ahead and start our testing. Now we have our testing phase, and within the testing phase, us testers, we also have a process that we need to follow. Within this industry, everything you do is process oriented. This is a process oriented job, and you have to make sure that you are following the proper process. All right. And one of the process that we follow as QA is Sdlc. This you have to know within the back of your head. You should be able to know this, being able to say this even in your sleep. What is the Sdlc? Sdlc, our process starts off with analyzing and understanding the software requirements from SRS. So we have a look at the SRS, whatever requirements are added there, we look through those requirements and we have a clear understanding. What does analyzing mean? It just means to read through, all right? And then you have a clear understanding of your requirements. That is the first part of Sdlc. Then we have creating a test plan. A test plan is a detailed document that explains what are you going to do throughout your entirety of testing within this project. All right. Day 1, what are you doing? Day 2, what are you doing? Day 3, what are you doing? What requirements are you working on? What the roles, who are playing what roles within this project? Who is the developer? Who is the designer? Who is the QA? Right? Who is the BA? Who is the project manager? There's going to be different roles. All of that is properly added to your test plan. It is a very detailed document letting us know what are we doing as a QA within this project right now. All right. Then we have creating test cases. Test cases is just simple steps in our testing. All right. When we're testing something, we have to write down our steps. We have to write down what we're testing. That is what test cases are. And that is one of the process that we follow in SDLC. We have to create test cases. Then we have creating RTM. RTM stands for Requirement Traceability Matrix. So one thing that we learn is that we have to create a full map, right? And that is what the RTM is. It is a map, and that is something that we're going to learn moving forward. Then we have our test environments. This is based.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Can you just, so what exactly is the map for, if you don't mind elaborating?
Sure, no problem. So RTM, Requirement Traceability Matrix. First, we start off with the requirement. Whenever we create test cases, we always create these test cases based off of the requirement, right? Now, if we have a list of test cases, how would we know that these test cases are for these requirements? That's when we map that, okay, if we have requirement 1, we have test case 1, 2, 3, 4. If we have requirement 2, we have test cases 5, 6, 7, 8. If we have requirement 3, we have test case 9, 10, 11, 12. That's when we put it side by side, and then we show that for this requirement, these are the test cases we have. That's the mapping that you'd normally give, and that is what's called an RTM. Is that clear for you, brother?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what's a test case again?
A test case is a detailed document providing steps of your testing. This is something for now. You guys don't have to really think about it that much. Just understand that it follows under the SDLC process. Moving forward, we have a separate section that gives that explains a lot more of what test cases are and what RTMs are. And then there's also going to be homework given to you guys of writing test cases, and also homework to be creating RTM. We're going to go more into detail later on within class.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for now, all you have to understand is all of these are in the SDLC process. Then we have executing the test case. So whatever steps we wrote, we follow those steps. That is executing your test case. All right. Then we have defect logging and tracking. One of the main things about a tester is that we have to test an application and find any type of deviance, any type of issues going on within an application. Whenever we find an issue, of course, we can't just leave it alone. We have to report that issue. We have to log that issue, right? And that is one of our main jobs as a QA. And that falls under our SDLC process, defect logging and tracking. So even after, creating our defects, reporting that defect, we also have to keep constant check with it, making sure that it's going through the proper process. A developer is having a look at it, then he's fixing it, and then it's going through QA again and being tested and whatnot. All right, until it's been completely fixed. That's also one of our process. Then we have also something called a TAR, creating a test analysis report, also known as TAR. Test analysis report is basically a type of report that you create, letting them know for currently this is how many test cases you have, this is how many test cases have passed, this is how many test cases have failed, this is how many bugs were created. That's what a test analysis report is. It's just giving a report of your full test of what you've been doing in work and what you have provided and your input, basically. That's what a test analysis report is. Like I said, guys, we're gonna go more in depth about all of these later on. They're right below part, I believe, like part 4, 5, or 6. We're gonna go over that in class, so no need to no need to be completely confused right now. Just understand that these are the SDLC process and this is what we have to do. No need to go that in depth right now. All right, guys. So that is the testing phase. We follow the SDLC process. Next, we have the user acceptance phase. What does it mean? What does UAT stand for? UAT is user acceptance testing. What does that mean? Testing shall be done by the client. So us QA, we are working for a software company, but even after we say that, okay, this is good, this is fine, you can accept it, it looks just like it's exactly like what you're looking for, that's not going to be enough for your client. What they would want is they would want to get their own tester, their own people, and they want to make sure that their people are testing it and making sure that it's working as they want it. And that is what happens during the user acceptance phase. Within the user acceptance phase, UAT is performed. What is UAT? User acceptance testing. What is user acceptance testing? It means that the client brings in their own testers and they test the software. Or by IVNV. What is IVNV? Independent Validation and Verification Team. This is just a name, independent validation and verification. This basically means that your client is bringing in their own QA, they're bringing in their own testers, and they work for the client. All right. And they're the ones testing the software and confirming to the client, yes, you're getting what you're expecting. So that is our user acceptance phase. Next, we have the development phase. All right. So far, what have we covered? We covered the, sorry?
Deployment phase.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going back a little bit by just reviewing real quick. So we have our user requirement phase that we completed, which deals with the URS, the client, and the IT company. Then we have the planning phase that deals with the URS being converted into an SRS by the BA. Then we have our design phase where the designers create a mock-up based off the SRS. Then we're going into development phase where the developers start building the application based off the SRS, and they do their types of testing. Then we have our testing phase where our testers follow the Sdlc process. And then we're up until the user acceptance phase where they perform UAT testing by the client's testers. Next, we have the deployment phase. What is the deployment phase? Deployment phase is where software shall be installed under production environment, go live to the user. This means that the application that is created is now for the public or whoever the intended user are. Let's say if Facebook was to be created, they cannot let Facebook be in people's hands while it's still being created, because there might be some issues, some bugs, some things that the client doesn't want or doesn't like, right? So what happens is that happens before the deployment phase. Everything that needs to be worked on happens before the deployment phase. Once it's said that it's in deployment, that means that it is go live. Anyone can use it. So that's what happens in deployment phase, that an application has been completely finished. It's been worked on. It's been tested. Now it is live for the intended user or for the public. Anyone can use the software now. That is the deployment phase. Next, we have two other phases, cutover phase and maintenance phase. Within the cutover phase, there's user training that also happens. So there's two ways that happens. Either the IT company, they let their people give training directly to the client, or they can give a user manual where that manual explains that this is what you can do within the application. This is how you use the application. They can create a full booklet, a full manual, and then they can provide that, letting them know this is how it works. We also have user manual shall be created. Okay, that's exactly what I was talking about. A manual is created and given to them. So they're going to be trained directly. They're going to be given a manual, and then the application support shall be provided by the client. So provided to the client. So whenever the client has any type of support that they need, any type of upgrade, any type of security updates or whatnot, that's what happens during the cutover phase. Then we have the maintenance phase. This is where any updates and upgrades.
Can you please explain the cutover phase again, please?
Yes, the cutover phase is just a phase for training, and it's basically just the phase for training. So whoever is going to be using the application, whatever training that we give is during the cutover phase, and it's happening after deployment. That's what the cutover phase is. Then we have the maintenance phase. During the maintenance phase, any type of updates or any type of upgrades or any type of security requests that they have, this is where we all do it during the maintenance phase. And whenever they're requesting for any changes and whatnot, that's when we go ahead and start from the very beginning again, starting phase one, the user requirement phase. That's when we start again from phase one during the maintenance phase. All right, guys. So that, oh, it looks like we have one other thing, the CM library. CM library, just like how I explained, the CM library is just a library. It's a virtual library where all of our documents that are created, we keep them, and it's just like a filing cabinet. All of the documentation that we have, we add all of that within the CM library. So just like all the documents that I discussed, the URS, the SRS, the design documents, the codes, the test cases, RTM, test plan, the test analysis report, all of those documents that I'm talking about, all of them would be added to your CM library, because everyone needs to have access, everyone needs to have visibility of what the current progress is within the project. And if we add all of that within the CM library, anyone who has access to it can go ahead and go into the CM library and they can go check those files. That is what the CM library is. All right, guys. And so that is pretty much what SDLC is. Does anyone have any questions about that? You guys seem really lost because that was a lot of details with very little time.
Can you keep the page zoomed how you had it?
Sure thing, brother.
Thank you.
Let's try asking questions to each member of what they understand from SDLC. See what their understanding is. Unless if members have questions or they're confused about a specific topic that was covered.
I'm still not clear with the still not very much clear with the SDLC.
Brother, for the STLC so far, whatever we have listed, this is all that needs to be mentioned. We don't have to go that in depth with it because there's a lot more that needs to be discussed for each and every one of these. So for now, when you're explaining the testing phase, STLC, just mention all of these, and that's all that you need for now.
All right, thank you.
So how much of a percentage of our job is just the testing phase? You said it's a lot. So like that's all that we're doing? I don't.
Yeah, because this entire batch is for QA, quality assurance tester. So our entire job is this STLC. Our entire job is this testing phase.
So how do we get to the other phases? Like we have another party that's working with us, or is there like a manager, or like it goes to this guy first, then it goes to us, and then it goes to the next people? Like how does this work?
So the way it works is you're going to have a team of designers, developers, PA, all of them. So it's gonna go from one process to another. After the design, it's gonna go into development where the developer is gonna do their work. Once they're done with their work, then it's gonna go to testing where the tester is gonna do their work. So that's how it goes. It goes from one person to the other, from one and then to complete the entire process. Once we're done, we go ahead and start again from A to Z.
Okay, so my question on top of that is when we get like a job with one place, like are we getting different teams all the times for different things, or like how does this work? Like every week we're gonna be doing this for different apps or different stuff, like, or we find independent contracts?
So the way it works normally is you will be within one team working for one project, for one application, and that application is going to be built. There's a full other process within the SDLC with different right here. Let me go ahead and open this up.
But is my team my coworkers, or is it like my team gonna be different for every project? Like it's gonna be different. Like I don't.
It depends within the company. If they're sending you to a different project within a company, you might have a different team, or it might be your entire team that's moving into a different project. It totally depends on how the company is going to be taking that. moving forward for a new project and whatnot. And a project, it lasts quite a while. So you will be having one set team for a few months, however long the project takes.
Okay. But it's never like you're working at this one company for life. It's always kind of like you're jumping around.
You're not working for one project your whole life, but you might be if you're working as the company employee, then you'll be working for that company your life if that's how it is.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Because I was confused, like how many projects could one thing have, you know?
One
So
company
it's-
has a lot of projects. Trust me, brother. When you join a company, you're gonna see that a single company holds so many projects. They have different teams, they have different members, they have so many things going on within one company.
Subhanallah, jazakallah khair, shukran.
Yeah. All right. So this is something that we need to cover. Does anyone want to give it a try explaining SDLC, just like how I did?
So rather, this is my first class, so I have a little bit problem to realize some point.
Mm-hmm. Well, brother, since it's your first class, there's no need to go be that worried about it. Make sure you cover part 1, part 2, and then for part 3, make sure you watch the recording. And just
Yeah,
like
I will do it.
Rajubai mentioned,
I will do it, yeah.
I'm sorry, brother. Oh, it's kind of hard to hear you. Hello?
Brother, you want to talk with me?
Yes, sorry. Were you saying something?
Oh no, I told you that it's my first class.
Right. Just like how Rajubai said, make sure you watch the previous class recordings, and then if you have any questions, reach out to him, and then we'll make sure that you're caught up. So anyone from the last class, obviously I have the document open right here. Who wants to give it a try explaining the SDLC process? Anyone?
You want us to read?
Basically, yeah.
Okay, I'll do it. Part 3, SDLC software development lifecycle. What is SDLC?
Instead of directly reading word for word, try to see if you can explain it in your own words. Looking through what we have right now, right here.
Can I explain it?
Go ahead.
Go
All
ahead.
right, so SDLC is pretty much the abbreviation for the software development life cycle, which is basically the process in which software is developed. If you want to get technical, then it's a highly structured process through which a high quality, cost effective project or product is created in as little time as possible. It has multiple phases, and you need to go from one phase to the next to complete the project. So beginning, you start off with the user, the person who actually wants the product, the software themselves. And so the first phase will be related to him, the user requirement phase. The user requirement phase, the person will get the requirements. The person from the software company representative will actually go to the user and get the software requirements from them to find out what kind of software they need. Like, what do they want exactly? What are they trying to do? What kind of functions do they need? And he'll, put that all together in a document called a user requirement specification. Specifications that he received from the user. And that in short is called a URS. And then after that, he'll take the URS and he'll make it into, we'll go to the next phase, which is called the planning phase. So now we've met with the user, we know what they want. Now we come back to the office. Now we need to figure out, okay, this is what the user wants. So we're planning, right? So this is called the planning phase. And in the planning phase, we're going to create some technical documents, because when the user speaks in a very general, common language, layman's terms. So, you need to create a document for the people inside of the office or in the company, the technical people, so they can understand it from a technical perspective. And that is called the SRS. That document has all the user requirements in it. And in technical terminology, that's called the software requirement specification, the SRS. And after that, that is passed on to the architects, the designers, right? The software designers. And because obviously when you're making a software, you know, you have to have like a mock-up, like a design first before you can, so you have like a front end, like a user interface and all that stuff. And then you have like the back end, the stuff that works in the back for functionality. So the first part is gonna be the design phase, where the designers, create like a mock-up for the, according to the SRS, the software requirement specification. So once they're done, then you move on to the development phase, where you're working on the back end of it, and you're creating a source code. The developers will create something called a source code. A source code is like basically the backbone and the structure of the program, that through which it functions. And once they make that code, they're going to test it themselves, because they also have the ability to test. So once they, and because it's made up into different parts, the software, so each part is called a unit, right? And so to test each part, that's going to be called unit testing. So developers do that. And then there's another part where you test the two parts together. You see if the two units, how do they work with each other? And that's called integration testing. So the developers, they'll first develop the source code, and from there they'll test it. They'll do unit and integration testing. And then the whole thing together that they made, that's called a build. So when you like download a software from Google Play Store or something, you'll see like a version number 1.0.1.23 or something like that. That's a build number. So like that, so it'll be like the first build, right? And then once they finish that build, then they'll pass that on to the QA department. That's the department we're going to be in. And that's going to be called the testing phase, where instead of testing the specific, like, just one part, like how the developers, we're going to test the whole software altogether, and like, just see its functionality and see how it works. So basically, first thing we're going to do in the testing phase is also called STLC, software testing lifecycle. In the testing phase, we're going to first like understand like what the requirements are. So you're gonna look at the SRS, and then from the SRS, you're gonna be like, okay, this is what I need. Let's make sure these functionalities are there. And then from there, you're gonna create a test plan, which is how you're gonna test it. Then from there, you're gonna have test cases, and then you're going to have, after that, you're gonna need to make a RTM. I forgot what R stands for. I know it's traceable matrix, right?
Yes, requirement traceability matrix.
Requirement traceability matrix, right? So it's a requirement traceability matrix. And then you need an environment to test the software. So you have to make that yourself, set it up. And then you're going to actually test the software. That's called executing the test cases. And then as you're testing, obviously you're going to find defects. You're going to find bugs, right? Or errors, little problems here and there. And you're going to write that down, log it down, right? So that's called defect logging and tracking. And then once you've done everything, you're going to create a report. And the report is called a test analysis report. And then the test analysis report is going to go back to the developers. They're going to change whatever they need to. And then eventually you'll have a finished product, and you're going to give the finished product to the user. And then the user will test it themselves by using it, which is called user acceptance testing. It can be done by the user themselves, the people that bought the software, or they can have their own separate team that they hired to test your software that you gave them, which is called an independent validation and verification team, the IVNV team. Once everything is done, then the software will be deployed. And that's called the deployment phase. It'll be installed into the whatever the environment where they're going to use it. It's going to go live. Basically, deployment means going live. And then after that, we have the cutover phase. The cutover phase is where your software company will send representatives to go and teach or train the users how to use the software. For example, let's say you're making a software for the hospital, and nurses will be using the software. So someone from the company will go to the hospital, and they'll get all the nurses together. They'll show them how the software works, and they'll be teaching them, and they'll provide them with a manual also, and any sort of support questions, anything they need after that. And then after that, as time passes, requirements will change or things will need to be updated. So in the maintenance phase, the next phase is the maintenance phase, where we do that kind of updating, which you see on Google App Store, Apple Play Store, when they have like an updated version, they tell you to update. That's actually the maintenance phase. That's when they're giving you a new build, they're giving you a new version, and so that you stay updated and so that your requirements are constantly being fulfilled. And for that to happen, they have to go through the whole process from the beginning over again. Do you want to talk about the CM library?
Yes, brother.
Okay, so in the middle of all of this, all these documents are mentioned: URS, SRS, I'm assuming RTM maybe,
Yes, that's right.
TAR, test analysis report. All these documents are going to go into, basically it's going to be like a file cabinet, right? So instead of having like a physical file cabinet, we'll have, I guess, one maybe in the cloud or something. That's going to be called a configuration management library. So that's just where we keep all of our documents that were related to, testing and building, planning, developing, and all the documents related to the project will be kept in the CM library, configuration management library.
Wow.
Yeah,
Mashallah.
perfect.
Very good.
Thank you.
I think that was very good, brother. Can I ask you what your background is?
Me,
Yes.
I'm not in IT. I mean, I did watch a couple of videos though.
Very good. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Very good explanation.
Thank you.
That is exactly what we're expecting from every one of our members, because this is something this is just like how the development phase where developers start their source code is the backbone. This SDLC is the backbone of an IT industry. If you cannot understand what the SDLC is and how it works, that is well, it's going to be tough for you to be finding a job within this industry. So everyone go in depth with it, watch the videos that we have for SDLC that was provided from last class. And then I believe this class is also being recorded. And then if there's any group sessions that are being held, join those group sessions and get a clear understanding of what SDLC is. So next class, you guys can clearly and you can clearly explain what SDLC is and talk about all of these phases and explain each and every one of these phases. This is very important, and this is something that everyone has to know. Thank you so much, brother. That was perfect.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
All right. Does anyone else want to give it a try, or should we wait till next week and everyone prepare?
Yeah, cause what he just did and what I was about to do. Thank you, brother, for what you did. That was informative and good.
Yeah. If you guys have any questions, does anyone have any questions? It's been almost an hour. Well,
I guess I have a question, but it's kind of like forward looking. What are we expected to go over next week? Because it looks like a lot of this was just kind of a review, like you mentioned.
yeah. So next week, I believe SDLC is going to be asked for you guys to explain. And if there's still time afterwards, we're going to be going over the types of models or methodologies of SDLC. There's different types of models. So I can't 100% guarantee, that's totally up to Calibre. But if everyone has a clear understanding of SDLC, then we'll be moving on to the models.
Okay, so was today's class just like solely for review purposes of SDLC?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and like I said, this is the backbone, so everyone has to have a clear understanding.
What is exactly user training means in cutover phase?
User training means, let's say I have this software, right? We have Google Drive. How do you use Google Drive? How would I be able to create folders? How would I be able to create these documents? All right. Whatever questions that they have or whatever they need to be taught, that is what's going to be taught during the training phase. So let's say, how would you create a folder? You're the client and I am the representative from the IT team. Right now, I'm going to teach you. The way you create a folder is you right click. Once you right click, what is this? Forget about that. Let me go to Drive. You right click. After you right click, it's gonna say new folder. You go ahead and click on new folder, and then you type your title, and then you click on create. It's going to create a folder for you. When I'm showing you these steps, this is me training you. That's what the training is.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then manual is whenever you buy a new phone, whenever you buy a computer, whenever you buy a laptop, you know those books that they give with giving you explanation, giving you details, how this works, how that works. That book is called a manual. So all of these trainings, whatever is being taught or whatever simple steps that need to be taught, they would also create a manual. So anyone that's any other members that's joining later on, those members can go ahead and have a look at the manual and have that type of training through a book instead of physical training.
One question when I was asked to read the SDLC, but the other brother did it instead. How would I have known to said all that if like I would never have known? Like he basically just reiterated what you wrote, but in his own words. That's what
in
it
his
was.
own words. That's exactly what you have to do. You reiterate everything into your own words, making sure that you
the person who's hiring me knows that I know what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah. So there are some things where if you start reading all of this, they're gonna see that you know the definition, but that's not enough. You know the book, right? You know the book definition, the definition by book, but that's just words. That's not experience. And when you start
So how would I have experience if I'm like brand spanking new?
Yeah, when you're this is why we have this course and this is why we have this entire batch going on, and we're gonna have an actual project after this batch for you to get that experience. So it's gonna be 4 months, 4 months of you doing this back and forth, and then having group sessions day and night, constantly being on your mind. You should be a professional after 4 months. You should have that type of experience.
So I'm gonna need my own computer, of course, or laptop, or whatever. But like, I'm gonna create a program or something like that, or like, how's the homework gonna be done? Because I've never done this in my life.
So right now, you from what we're doing is there is no coding, there is no programming, there is nothing. We are going to be working as QA. We're going to be working as testers, and it's a manual testing job. So we're slowly going to be getting there, and you'll see that, okay, it has nothing to do with coding. For now, the homeworks that you have to provide are directly just in Google Classroom, creating a document and just answering a few questions. That's all you have to do.
Okay.
And then moving forward, like writing test cases, executing test cases, all of these are going to be explained in the later classes.
Okay, inshallah.
Inshallah.
I had a quick question. Are we going to be doing any projects on like GitHub or anything like that?
No, nothing directly from dealing with code and whatnot.
Okay.
This is purely a manual testing course, and that's what's going to be taught to everyone.
What about, have you heard of like UTest? That's like a QA website. Where they have stuff to test, and like and you can kind of create a profile or something like that. I haven't seen the site yet. I saw on a YouTube video. That's all. Just asking.
Raju bhai, any idea?
There are many sites for testing. When you say you test, what is it testing? Is it testing the code, or is it testing the UI, or what is it testing?
I mean, I've only seen the description from like a YouTube video for someone who wants to like add things to a portfolio. I never actually got a chance to go to the
that's
site
not
yet.
the process you're going to follow. No, if you go into the job market saying I have this in my portfolio, which is UTest, everybody knows what they would know what UTest is. UTest is a dummy program or dummy software that you test, maybe manual or maybe automated, but that is not the process that you would follow to get a job. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you're not clear on that. There is a process on how you get a job, and we go through that process, and we guide and direct you and guide you on getting the job, because that's the ultimate goal, for you to get a job. and putting U tests in your portfolio is not sufficient.
Oh, okay, I understand. It's like Guru 99.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah. So if by getting a job and following the process, this is the entire process that you need, and this is the entire process that you have to have experience on. This batch is going to give you that experience of STLC. How do you analyze and understand a requirement? Where do you see a requirement? Different types of tools that are being used within the software industry, right? Like you
Brother, I have a
wouldn't
question.
real experience if you're just doing U-test and just learning from there. So that's what the main purpose of this course is itself, giving you real life work experience so you can get an actual job within this what do you call it, role.
Field. Yeah.
Yes, within this field. So yeah, any other question, guys, before I end it for today? All right, looks like everyone is clear. So see you guys next week. If you do have any questions, reach out to our members. And make sure you understand SDLC clearly, because like I said, this is something really important and something you need to know by heart.
Yeah, and one more thing I wanted to point out, I'm still waiting for the homework for the members that did not submit. I'm still waiting for that. Please submit your homework so I understand what level you are in, what your understanding is, and where you need help. And later on, we're going to work on creating teams and working with you daily or, every other day on doing group studies and to help you and guide you through and answer your questions on any topics that you have. And please reach out to me if you have any other questions.
Thank you, brother.
Sure.
One more question before you started speaking. The other brother said this is very important to know. What was that? I missed that part.
Sdlc, I believe.
Okay, so
Yeah.
basically the topic of today. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Thank you, Jazakallah
Thank you.
khair, shukran. Thank you for the organization and the lecture and the time and the sabr and the homework corrections. And inshallah, see you guys next week.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you guys. Sound good.
Assalamu alaikum.